Welcome back, everybody, to Futsal News Live. It's Jake here. Hello again. And I'm here with Luke. Luke, 2 streams in a row. Look at
Hey,
this.
I'm making records.
The impossible has been done. I love it. Unfortunately, we don't have our guest like we originally planned tonight, guys. We were going to interview Juan. He had some stuff come up, but we are still going to talk about things relative to Juan. So if you came over here from Grand Rapids, Olay, we'll be talking NFPL and checking out the new season ahead and the new look for the league, as well as some other domestic futsal here in the U.S. But you guys know the drill. I always post this. I always make sure I put it in the description, in the comments. The show's about you guys. If you come into the comments and want to chat, please speak up. Let us know what you guys want to talk about, and we are ready to chat with you about what you want to talk about in futsal. So with that, Luke, how you feeling tonight, man?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah?
Everyone's sick around me, and I'm ducking and diving and washing my hands, and it's just like you want to stay well and rolling into the Thanksgiving break here, and yeah, just excited to start futsal. It is a different look, and we will talk about that tonight. But I have mixed
Yes.
emotions and mixed feelings, a little bit of excitement, a little bit of heartbreak, but you know, I'm feeling good. Futsal season is almost ready to start. We're right on the edge.
That's right. Like you said, Thanksgiving's around the corner, holidays around the corner. That means so is futsal in the United States. So us Americans, for my UK followers out there, I know we got a pretty big following of you guys here on the channel. You'll probably see this tomorrow morning, but your time. But yeah, we're excited because we're finally going to get to enjoy some of our own futsal instead of watching in envy on YouTube across the pond here. So we're still cheering for you guys, but we got our own business to take care of too. So we're going to be taking care of that. So a little bit of news around all the leagues, I guess, really, that we've touched on this channel. Probably the simplest one to cover would be Superliga, which was a new league that started over the summer. Was ended up being a total of 6 games per team across 4 teams. It looked like originally, Luke, there was going to be a championship match between first and second, but I don't think that happened. I don't see anything on it or anything referenced on their website anymore. But as the standings go, Baltimore Kings come away with the top spot. I think we always knew they were going to be number 1 or number 2, based on what we've seen out of them from League One. Intensity Futsal. If you guys have ever watched Intensity in a live stream, great atmosphere there inside of their arena. I think it's in La Plata, Maryland, if I remember right. But I say that with a question mark. I don't know exactly 100% for sure. Virginia Futsal Pro was someone that was new to me. I don't know, Luke, you probably out your way. You're probably a little too far west to have heard from any of that, but I don't know if you've heard of those guys before.
No,
So
the only ones I heard of were the Kings and Intensity. The VA Futsal Pro and Washington Fire. No idea.
the only reason I knew Washington Fire is they're part of League One.
Okay.
So they were pulling double duty as well as Baltimore Kings. Josh Danza, who was our very first ever guest on Futsal News Live, runs Baltimore Kings, also runs League One. And I think that this has been, from talking to him in conversations just over the last little more than a year now we've been doing this, this has always kind of been a goal of his, is to collaborate with someone else and get a bigger league going outside of the Metro DC area. So I'm glad that that opportunity arose. Little rough around the edges for the first season, I'd say, but it was cool to have some summer futsal, was it not?
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, I think we've talked about this before. It's not live. Josh does a bang up job of putting out the videos post live, with some really good edits. Quality is great, but at the same time, it's hard because as sports fans, you want to be in that moment. You want to see the live goals. You want to hear the announcer. You want to see, you want to hear the names. And we've talked about this over and over and over again. You want to have a personal connection with the teams, and it just feels so distant. It feels kind of old news. I just think that with the way the sports are nowadays, if it's not live, it's hard to be relevant. It's just really hard to be relevant. Wish not, I think that nothing but the best for Intensity and Baltimore Kings. I think there was rumblings and rumors of them joining NFPL this season as well. I don't think that panned out. I thought they were going to play Superliga, then come over to NFPL. That was kind of a rumbling I heard. I guess that didn't pan out, but I would have loved to seen them play with NFPL with some announcers and some streaming and to see really, how they stack up.
Yeah, and especially for the two top teams here, being the Kings and Intensity, two teams that have a great product on the court, in my opinion, especially by US standards. And I think that they kind of deserve that platform. Now, Intensity does do a little bit of live streaming on their Facebook page. For this Superliga, it was a little inconsistent, or maybe I missed it. I don't want to take anything away from Intensity's efforts, but I think I missed a couple games I thought I expected to see. I was looking forward to that final because I think with a final on the line between Baltimore and Intensity, we would have seen some really bang up games and plays. And Intensity and Baltimore and these guys all also participate in that big USFF tournament that goes on in the winter out in usually Atlantic City, I want to say. So there's some history there. They've done some friendlies. I mean, this is really got the potential for a budding friendly rivalry. You got two founders that are building something special together off the court by making this league happen, but can still create a competitive atmosphere on the court when they're against each other, which is what it's all about. That's really all we can ask for right now in the futsal community is for that work to build each other up, to make us stronger so that our product on the court reflects our efforts and save the rivalry for that 20-minute halves or 25-minute halves, depending on the league, and run this thing.
Right.
So, I'm a little bummed about the way this one turned out. I was hoping to see a little bit more out of it, but I also, I hate trashing other people's work. I don't want it to come across as me being a massive pessimist, but the website is rough. And we just didn't get a lot of product out of it. I don't think Virginia Futsal is active on social media at all.
Yeah.
If they are, barely. Washington Fire does a little bit on social media. So they gave us a little bit with updates and things. But outside of the Kings and Josh's effort and Intensity with those couple of streams, it's tough. And I noticed too, Luca, did you happen to catch any of the live streams for Intensity?
Back in the day when NFPL did like a what was that tournament they kind of did?
Didn't they?
Yeah, they did like kind of a
21 or
friendly
22?
tournament. Yeah, I believe so. I caught a little bit of it. The facility looked good. The streaming was okay because honestly, I feel like because our boy, what's his name? I just lost his name. Our filmer friend in Michigan. Anyway, I'll think of it sometime. The guy who does all the filming, the guy who does all the
Mason?
filming for Mason, he was there streaming. It upped the quality a lot. The facility looks great. The noise was great. The crowd was great. I was kind of
strong
hoping
crowd.
to see. I was hoping to see more from Intensity. They started really ramping up on social media. Like it looked like it was coming to a crescendo. And actually, before Superliga started, I was like, if Intensity's heading this up, maybe look out. Maybe look out. They're making some noise, but in all, it fell flat. And if anybody knows the work it takes to make something go, I think someone like you, someone like me, who are involved in the circles know. And it's tough. It's hard. It's thankless. It's grindy. It's full of like qualms and quibbles and technical difficulties. It's just rough. So, no disparaging comments to them. It is a rough gig, but at the same time, still a little bit disappointed not to see something more.
Yeah, and we did a video on Superliga before the league started its inaugural season. Couple points I guess I would follow up from on that video, since the league appears to have ended. Is first and foremost, we walk out of this and we really still don't know two of the teams.
Right.
Out of four, so you only really have a chance at 50% of the teams knowing anything about them and what they're about. The way that it was presented and the timing, the lead up, I kind of expected a little cleaner look. I understand streaming is intimidating, so I don't mean so much from the streaming perspective as much as I do the website perspective. I mean, these days, I think most young people are getting their information from social media. Maybe not so much the hard website itself. It might be the landline of our generation, Luke, that is dying a little bit. But uh, it's a rough website to travel through. It's fairly basic. It doesn't really catch the eye, and although, like you said, and I agree 100%, uh, we are not here to disparage anyone's work, and we understand the effort that goes into building something like this and making it look really good. Uh, but that said, we also live in a world where the first impression, that first few seconds of someone being on your landing page or being on your Twitter page or whatever it is critical. You
Mm.
lose so many people in that short period of time. And when you go to a website like this and you don't see, I don't know. I again, I really don't want to trash them, but I made something a little nicer in this in middle school when I was learning how to do website design. So I have a hard time. I don't know. I have a hard time with this one. But
The thing is like with a website, it literally just pick a what do they call it, a template, and just fill in some
yeah,
pictures. It's honestly like you have to like the, don't try and do something like custom. Just put something out there that's simple and looks good, and then call it a day. And it's so
a
hard.
good
And like,
example of that is a lot of team futsal pages right now are identical. They're all the exact same template.
right,
I mean, surely another team somewhere is available to talk and say, "Hey, where'd you get your template from? And was it easy to use? Yes,
right,
no, 5 minute conversation. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit."
right,
But when you look at the organization that's running this league, or at least put their logo on it, um, their main website is familiar to this.
right.
So I don't know if it's a deeper issue.
Yeah.
Um, we've talked before on the channel about, in fact, in our last month, we talked a little bit about this, a little bit of a fear of the unknown that I think keeps some folks away from working on stuff like this. I
Right.
just don't even want to touch it. I don't want anything to do with it. I just want to do the futsal. That's fine.
Right.
I get it. And the futsal is the most important part. At the end of the day, it's the real product. But man, in this technological world, it's tough. So I think that with a little bit of polishing, if they continue to do this league next year, another thing too, I kind of wanted to touch on, Luke. I noticed is uh, maybe we talk about summer futsal a little bit. So I don't know what the thought process behind doing the summer was. If it was a availability factor or that opportunity to participate in other leagues during the winter. But I noticed that the crowd size at Intensity's games, and I only know this because I'm familiar with them from watching them during tournaments and things, uh, was small. It seemed like the
Hmm.
turnout was a little light. And is it summer vacations? Is it nicer days? You don't want to be outside. I don't know. I wonder what the answer to that question is. How do you feel about a summer schedule and how it might impact attendance?
It's rough. Summers is always hard because, and this isn't just this sport. I mean, the dog days of summer, the MLS struggles with it. Baseball is a grind through it. You know what I mean? It's kind of just an evil that's been around, and it is what it is. But it is those dog days of summer, and people are on vacation. People are doing other. People are out and about. People want to be outside. So outdoor sports kind of somewhat have a little bit of a benefit, but I don't think there's hardly anybody who wants to go in and experience an indoor game. You know, during the summer, during hot days. Most people want to be outside. Uh, I think just with US culture, summer means vacation, and it's rough. People are out vacationing. Maybe they do want to take in a game, and unless you have a venue that is a destination, like you buy the tickets, you're going with your friends. You're not just going to watch the game. You're going to have a beer. You're going to get a hot dog. You're going to pre-funk. You're going to like do something before the game. You're going to do something after the game. It's an event. It's an occasion. Unless you have something like that, nobody's going to take time out of their busy schedule of whatever enjoyment they're doing to go to a futsal game. It's just not there. You got to have something more than that. The only venue I saw come close to that was Columbus Futsal.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and Columbus has a good following. They've been in the they've done an excessive amount of community work since their inception in the 2000s. I mean, so that's literally decades of building to get there as well. I think I don't know how old Intensity or Baltimore are relative to maybe an example like them, but like Columbus, but maybe something to aspire to, right? And I think that it's a tough one. Like there's less competition with other leagues, yes, but at the same time, there's probably overall more competition as far as things to do, particularly East Coast or Great Lakes, Midwest, where we only have so many good months to enjoy before we have to be inside. So folks' mentality a lot of times is, well, I'm going to spend as much time outside as I can because there's going to be. I can only speak for my Northeast Ohio brethren here, but we're at that time of the year where today was 60 degrees and everybody was outside. Good luck getting anyone on the phone today.
Right.
We were all outside for probably the last time. So
right.
it's just one of those things. The thing that makes futsal strong in its attendance is the fact that it tends to coincide with bad weather, to some degree. And I think that's why some countries also see somewhat better attendance than others as well. As you look at some of these countries where either weather's not great or conditions for an outdoor field aren't great, so they have better futsal quality. So it's just an interesting thing. I don't mind summer futsal. I'm a futsal fanatic though, so I'm an outlier. What is the average fan looking for? I don't know, and that's the thing that these folks really need to think about, because they're the ones they got to try and. That's the fan base you got to try and convince and sell this to, not me.
Right. Well, I mean, with that, if you think about it, like even look at just pop culture. You put the movies that are like, meh, you release them in the summer. Everyone wants that fall release, that build up to Christmas release, right? Everyone wants that release for their movie. You know what I mean? Like all the hits are jockeying for like prime position in the winter months. Isn't that how it goes though?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I think Dune's supposed to come out in November. I'm just thinking about because that's another indoor venue, and no one releases in summer. It's just hard to get people in the door. Like I think they basically give tickets away in the summer at the movies. You know what I mean? They just want people in the door. So I mean,
they just want enough to survive to the winter.
Yeah,
that's where the money's made.
That's got to be something to be said for like people sitting down at some sort of venue. You know what I mean? I mean, if the movie industry, which is millions of dollar industry, has some pulse on the situation. So anyway, yeah.
Well, I would take it. I guess there's one more step that I was thinking about too that is probably a factor for Superliga. Is you look at the Baltimore Kings and you look at owner Josh Danza. He owns the Kings, who participate in League One in the fall and in the spring, I believe, or at least late winter. You've got the Kings involved now in Superliga. You've got the Kings involved in MASL 3. And you've got another organization that that Josh owns as well called Salisbury Stakes, which is a new MASL squad out of Salisbury, Maryland. And they are in MASL 3. So, wow. One of your flagship teams right out of the gate, you got a very busy owner that's very involved in the winter. So is that why we looked at summer? And if that's the case, and if that's what gets the Kings in the league, worth it, I think, until you find a plethora of teams where you can afford to lose someone. But I think early stages, hey, when's everybody free? Okay, let's do it. Let's get our name out there.
Right.
Probably if I had to guess the thought process there.
Right.
Speaking of getting names out, FCS Futsal Championship Series. This is a league that we've covered on the channel since our start. Jeremy Kleppal, who's the mastermind behind that, gave me some great advice before I started this channel on, kind of his perception of where futsal is and why it may or may not be working right now, and the things from a content standpoint that are working and not working. But they are back, and better than ever, I would say. 7 teams this year, this session, excuse me, this series. There will still be a fall and a spring series, according to the website. So Lansing's schedule specifically, we have posted here if you guys want to check that out. Lansing City has probably one of, if not the nicest court I've ever seen. And it's kind of annoying because I want it, but I love it. I've been there not since they renovated it, but I have made a trip there before to watch some futsal. Convinced the wife to do a road trip with a very little first daughter. How I convinced her to do that, I have no idea. But it worked, and I got to enjoy that facility. Jeremy's a great guy. Was very welcoming to an Ohioan coming to Michigan, so I thank him for that. But yeah, it's a bigger. It looks bigger than ever now. There were some things that were announced for FCS that look like have fallen through. But first glance, Luke, what do you think about the FCS for Series 1?
You know, it's good. And I think we've talked a lot about this, about Jeremy's views, about how the FCS is run. I think streaming's a big miss. I think the fact that they have a lot of teams involved is a great get. I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. The fact that they're getting a lot of teams engaged and they're offering them a venue, they don't have to focus on, where do we play. They have a beautiful facility. They can just focus on playing. I think that's great. I think Jeremy runs a tight ship. I think he has a great organization. I think he does a decent job on social media, pictures, everything. Just the streaming is a big miss. I'm a little bit, like I said, again, I don't want to be disparaging to their efforts. I'm a little bit bummed out that that they didn't come through with the pro rel. They announced some things that they kind of went back on. I think that's something that you hold under your hat until last minute and you spring that last minute, not put it out and try and go for it. I just think I would have reverse engineered that whole thing from FCS's standpoint. I think it's a great idea. I think pro rel is something that you look at when you're like literally bursting at the seams. It's kind of the way that my wife and I kind of go about and think about how we do businesses. Like when I did my business and when she's doing her business as well, which is work until you can't even think straight and then grow. Right? you're like, you push yourself to the hilt and then you hire more people. Then you push yourself to the hilt, hire more people. I just don't think the American futsal is bursting at the seams. It just isn't. Pro rel was always kind of like a head scratcher for me, but I didn't want to say like, well, I knew kind of behind the scenes information on who was in the NFPL and who wasn't. So I was like, well, there's a couple of teams out there. So I was kind of wondering if they joined FCS, which they did not. So that's kind of my take on FCS. Streaming. That's the other thing I have to say is they're not streaming, which is heartbreaking.
Especially because, and we've said this a million times, and but I'm going to say it again anyway, is that the facility is absolutely stunning. I mean, it is an absolute blueprint for what could be any team anywhere if they want to. If like people should be looking at what Jeremy has built as far as an arena and finding a way to make that work for their team.
Right.
If I ran into the lottery tomorrow and could start a futsal team, first phone call would be to Jeremy.
Right.
Talk to me about how you pulled this building off, because I've got to have it.
Right.
In a different color, but I got to have it. I'm not going to copy your blue, but I'm going to need something.
Right.
And the building is, for those of you that aren't from the Lansing area, to give you a bit of a painted picture, it was an old retail plaza lot that he converted into this futsal arena. So there's room for, in fact, there are other small stores that have taken up space in other parts of this plaza. It's kind of off the main road there, but it's clear what it is. You can see it from the road. You can see the blue through the windows. And much like most I think gyms that host futsal in this country. It is technically multi-purpose. I believe there's gymnastics there as well. Saw a ton of gymnastics gear when I went there in person. Uh, uh, there's room for volleyball. I think that a big key from a funding perspective for any budding futsal organizations is finding ways to partner with these other sports that can use a similar space and keep it busy to pay the rent. But that's another story for another day on diving into that. But
Right.
I think that the important thing is Jeremy has found a way to create a full size futsal court and make it available. The problem, and just like you said, Luke, my problem with the way that it's set up with that league is that you got these teams that are coming from. I think that these most recent teams are coming from Indiana, as well as oh, that's a great picture. That's it right there.
See if we can zoom in a little
Is
bit.
that before the renovation or after?
It might be before, but I tried to find some pictures, but he doesn't have a
The
lot of
floor
really good
itself is the
interior.
same, I believe.
Yeah, the floor is the same.
The seating was what was updated, if I
Right.
remember right, when they were going through that process. But and actually, if you guys really dig, and it would take some digging, but Eric Haggerty, who has also been on the channel before with Jenga, he's now in St. Louis and does photography and video work for St. Louis's MLS side.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, he has some. He spent some time in Lansing playing for them. Uh, Unfortunately, his tenure up there was during COVID, so he didn't see a lot of games. But he did still find a way to post some content, and there's some content of him training in this gym, and you can see just how nice this court is,
Right.
how beautiful this building is. I mean, this is what we're after right here. I mean, this would
Right.
be a dream for me. That's a pipe dream right there.
It's full
Um,
size too. It's in and what I think what the picture doesn't show and what you see a lot of in American futsal is courts that they look big, but they are not full size. If you're on a
yes,
basketball court, it's too small. Your penalty area should be starting at the end of the basketball court and should extend outward. And that's kind of like a full size court. Like that's usually what we see. Like in San Lorenzo, you see that. I think a couple
thank
other a
you,
couple
thank you.
other Argentinian courts have that. You can see basketball courts laid inside of the futsal court. This is a point that Jeremy harps on a lot. Or no, I shouldn't say harps on. It sounds negative, but is very adamant about.
Yes.
Is full size futsal courts and showing respect to the game.
Well, and I like his logic behind it because it kind of ties into, and Jeremy's someone who has national team experience as well, so he can speak to this better than most. But take a bunch of guys that either play arena soccer and not futsal, or they play futsal, but there is no full size court for them to play on in their backyard,
Mhm.
and then you throw them on a international stage that is full size, and we're not prepared to play on that. The extra running, the amount of space that's underutilized. And I think we saw a little bit of that growing pain in the Dushan era that improved over time. But that's one of the things we got to fix is we're playing on undersized courts. Uh, I was fortunate that I got to do some drop-in games that I ran in Akron, Ohio, with adults, and we played on a kid-sized court. And man, that's tough. Not a lot of room.
No.
And when there's not a lot of room like that, especially with full grown people, adults, uh, there's a lot of room for injury. There's a lot of room for just like tripping over each other and fouls. And it's just, it kills the flow of the game a little bit. And for grown adults as well, who have a much longer stride than kids, the opportunity to play real futsal kind of gets taken away as well because you don't have the room to make those pass plays. You take 5 steps, you're halfway down the court.
Right.
So I get where he's coming from on that. I did notice too. I'm watching FCS last weekend for their opening weekend. I was watching their Facebook page, and they had a ton of short clips in their story. So they've expired since then, guys. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to look them up now. But appeared that they had a game in Grand Rapids away from Lansing Arena, and as far as I am aware, I am 99.999% sure this is accurate when I say this. Uh, that is the first time ever we've seen a game outside of Lansing Arena for FCS in its couple years of existence. So interesting. I could not tell from the shorts how big the arena was. So the question is, have we relaxed a little bit on our rule about the court size, or is there a gym? And it looked like a high school gym in Grand Rapids somewhere that can actually fit a full size court? And if so, are we going to start to see FCS fingers stretch into some other communities and actually get some exposure with some local markets? I think that's what these teams really need at the end of the day.
These courts do exist. I mean, if you look at when NFPL plays at Saline, they definitely have the opportunity to. There is the room on the back sides of the court to extend to a full size futsal court. I don't understand how they set the court up. Like it was kind of like offset to one side. I think it had to do with like seating. I didn't understand it. I was like, why don't you set this up like every other futsal court sets up on a basketball court, where you put the penalty area behind the goal or behind the end line of the basketball court, and then you use the center court as the center court? Because they didn't do that. Did you notice that when they played at Saline?
I did. Yeah, and I couldn't tell if it was the camera playing tricks on me or if that was actually the case, but
It was
you
wonky.
saw that too then.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, that's a gym with those retractable bleachers, so I wonder if that has something to do with it as well. Like maybe the bleachers come up too close on the court lines that they have to make that adjustment. I don't know. That's
Maybe.
a good question.
But one thing to kind of another thing to shout out about with the FCS is, if you notice, Detroit is in FCS and in NFPL this year. They are pulling double duty, which to me, the more that I think about it, we talked about this pre-show, is like, oh, hey, they're pulling double duty. But now that I kind of am rolling this over in my mind, to me, I'm like, why are there not more teams doing this? Why are not more teams pulling double duty, playing in two leagues? I don't think the FCS is a taxing schedule. I think it's quite short.
I'd say this season is the exception. This season does overlap with NFPL, but in all sessions past, they've hardly, if ever, overlapped. We saw Futsal Indy participate in both 2 years ago. We found out later that was two sets of players, but even so, the only night that kind of tipped us off to that fact was that Futsal Indy played in Lansing at like 6:00 and then hosted a game in Indianapolis at 8. And it was the last game of FCS and the first game of NFPL. I thought, wait, there's not enough time in the day for you to play this game and then race home from Lansing to Indy. I mean, it's not terribly far, but that ain't close.
Right.
But it was it's interesting. I agree with you, Luke. Like and then another thing that FCS had advertised over the summer that seems to have gone away was there was an advertisement for a tournament separate from the season as well. So to be able to join a tournament, there was an opportunity to, hey, earn a slot to be in this first division. If you win this tournament, then the Pro Rel was discussed, and they had what we see currently, which is these 7 teams that had not yet been announced. Originally, they said it'd only be 6 teams, and then a second division. And I even saw a team, and I will not name them for the sake of, I don't want to embarrass them on live stream just in case, but I did see a team even announce that they were going to be part of FCS that is not anywhere in the mix here. And then, like you said, Luke, with and this will be a good segue between us talking about Detroit Imperial and then this is we've seen several teams leave the NFPL. I thought for sure, two divisions, easy. Jeremy's got a real problem on his hands because you got to figure out how to divide up this talent fairly, and that's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, maybe not the case, and I think a lot of it comes down to some of that court size stipulation. I think that some of the teams that left NFPL are just way too far away from Lansing to agree to travel there every game. It just doesn't make sense. But we did get to see a tiny bit of a preview of Detroit Imperial through the Facebook stories, and they faced Midwest, as you guys can see in the banner here as we're showing the website. Midwest was Migos. I think that Migos merged with Midwest and Grand Rapids, if I know my Grand Rapids futsal lore correctly. So that Migos team, though, it doesn't look the same to me. I know that their goalkeeper went off to Westcliff University. I don't know if he's still there or not, but last I heard, I'm pretty sure he was at Westcliff playing futsal out in California.
Just to clarify, he is saying Midwest, not Midwest, because we do have Midwest and we have Midwest.
Yes. Yeah, so they're both out of Michigan, so good luck. And they both have the mitten in their logo, so good luck piecing that together if you're not from the area. Uh, Interesting though, Luke, we've got 3 Detroit teams.
Hmm.
We've got Lansing, we got GR, and then we have Z12 representing Indy, and then this Bolivar team. I don't know where they're from. I want to say they were from Indiana somewhere as well, but little larger footprint for FCS this season. So even
Right.
without Pro Rel, would you say this is a successful growth season for FCS ahead of them here?
I think so. I think it's hard not to disclose what we've talked about behind closed doors, which is, you know, we have our opinions, and some of them are kind of a little harsh, but at the same time, maybe I'll just come out and say it. Like American futsal, you need to get your act together. You need to. Like money be damned, because don't get the money. We don't have futsal, or let's all just like relax a little bit. And here's the thing: is like I'm gonna just say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm working here for free, um, and I'm helping. I help multiple teams for free, and it's not because I want a pat on the back, or I'm like a glory hound. It's because I want to see futsal survive in the US, and I think a lot of people are just viewing it wrong. We've talked about this about US soccer. We've talked to this, it was just like people are just viewing this wrong. They're kind of putting the cart before the horse, but we need some strong teams that are playing year after year and creating a good product. And there's just not that many, and we push each other away, and we get in fights, or we have our differences. Um, so good on FCS for getting teams together and playing. Whether it's at Jeremy's place, whether it's at this place or that place, as long as they're playing, um, to me, there's no money in futsal. There isn't. It's not there's no jackpot. Like no one's secretly scheming to pull the switch and get all the money. No one. I just don't think. I think people just are viewing it wrong, and we need to just create a strong base of futsal, and then like let's figure it out. I think I forgot who said this, but like, don't worry about the money. Make something cool. Figure the money out later. If it's cool, it'll make money. And right now, it's not cool because people are scattered here and there and everywhere, and trying to like go to this club, that club. We just need people need to do what's right for them, and they need to be playing. Teams need to be playing. That's the bottom line. And if these teams are playing with Jeremy, great. I want to see more teams. I just think it's great to see whoever playing in American futsal, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, as long as they're out there playing. And hopefully that drums up more competition, more people playing, more eyeballs. Because I feel like more eyeballs is going to drive more competition. It's going to drive more people to want to play for them. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me. I'm getting a little bit fed up with the rigmarole of teams bouncing here and there. I just want to see some teams play because I
Yeah,
like watching American futsal.
yeah, and the other thing too, I think is um, some of the structure here right now is limiting to what is an amateur league, and this is my pet peeve, and I've said it several times, but I'll bring it up one more time. Is that these and NFPL is guilty of it too, claiming to be semi-pro. I don't even think NFPL is semi-pro. I think it's amateur in most cases, if not all. Semi-pro implies there's some kind of compensation for these players, and I don't think most of these players their compensation comes from coaching the academies that are tied to these teams, or they're working real day jobs, and they're not pulling a paycheck. They're just doing it out of pure passion, and that's kind of the downer when you really think about it. Is that we got all these super passionate people that don't care about the money that are playing, and they're getting held back by a couple of people that have figured out a way to make money, and are holding everyone back because they don't want it to improve. They just want their little slot of cash for the year, and then they move on with their other obligations. And
Yeah.
it makes it tough. It makes it really tough. And like you said, Luke, I'm at a point too where I'm kind of tired of it, and I may be new to futsal in the grand scheme of things. Only really following it here for the last, I'd say, seriously since 2019, but I've seen enough to know that we're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Um, And again, it does go back to what we've said before. We don't want to take away from the work that people have done, but it can certainly be built on. And I think some egos need to be set aside, and
Mm.
uh, and we need to address the elephant in the room and say, hey, yes, I don't know all the answers. How can I improve this? And quite frankly, something between, and I don't know, I know nothing about how League is set up or what their fees and things are looking like, but like you said, Luke, sometimes it's hard for us to talk behind this camera, knowing what we know and not like just airing all the dirty laundry. But something between what NFPL does and what FCS does is a happy medium,
Mhm.
and that's probably where we need to be, to make this thing work and really start to take off, at least at an amateur and semi-pro level, to really start capturing some attention. I had an interesting conversation as well with someone overseas. It was a private conversation, so I'm not going to name them, but it's someone that knows their stuff and is probably one of the most well-known futsal figures in the world. And he said an interesting thing, and it's, why aren't we doing more for the kids in futsal and building up this fan base really from where yeah, we already know our generation's not going to see anything spectacular out of this. And some of the, in countries like ours where we're so far behind the eight ball, why aren't we introducing this to kids? Why aren't we in schools pushing futsal and gymnasium classes and physical education classes? Uh, it felt like a big miss to him, and that's one of those things that it's going to vary from state to state in the United States, which would make it difficult. It varies country to country, but it's still a valid question, regardless of what country it's coming from. Is I can't think of anyone that's truly just pushing it for the greater good
Mhm.
if there's no money behind it. And I get it, like you got to make a living. I'm the same thing. I'm not a futsal professional in any sense. I sell commercial trucks for a living.
Right.
But I think that maybe there's something there, um, certainly something worth considering. And I think that there's also opportunities for us to work together. And there's these factions in the United States. There's three of them, and none of them can seem to get along. And some of them are more petty than others, and it's killing the sport.
Yeah.
Every time we get some momentum, we trip ourselves up because we didn't think of the idea, and I think that's BS.
Right.
Um, and if you're that person, then you don't belong in your position because you're holding us back. And
Right.
the rest of us, when we get smart to it, hopefully run through you and make the sport better.
Right.
But with that in mind, the thinking about these different leagues and how there's a little bit of synergy, and I think you brought up Detroit Imperial. Uh, they are also in the NFPL, and the NFPL looks a lot different this season, doesn't it?
Yes, it very much does look different. if you
It's
if you if you're just tuning in and you're just like, "Hey, I wonder what's going on with the NFPL," you might want to sit down.
good timing. Yeah, grab an adult, grab a an age appropriate drink, and be prepared because here we are. So NFPL, good news. We see two new teams, which is exciting. Bad news is the field is very narrow this season. So looking at this is probably going to look a lot different to people. Um, Southwest was a new league that was added kind of late last season. I want to say it was added after the season already started. In fact, I know
Mhm.
it was. But we were still able to tie and rope it into all the action for an FPL. It was a very exciting announcement. It was one that no one saw coming, I don't think, except for maybe the closest people to the league. And it was a good ad. The talent out there is
Right.
amazing. I'm a big fan of the talent out of Bruce FC, who won the Southwest. I'm a big fan of the talent out of New Mexico Flagship. They've got a ton of passion, which we saw in the final almost in a negative way, but the passion's unmatched. Their facility has a ton of character,
Right.
which made it really cool. We also had Colorado Futsal Academy, which upset Brusa and I think Flagship both. At one point, they didn't make the cut here for that final like kind of playoff run, but were an upset team, a dark horse team that was really enjoyable to watch. They were in every game. And then a team not listed here is San Diego Voyagers. Looks like they've maybe taken a step back from NFPL, but in their place is another New Mexico team, and we find it in Santa Fe Gloom with possibly the coolest color scheme and logo I've seen in a while in futsal. Really cool.
Right.
Uh, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table and what these jerseys look like based on that color scheme. It could be really sick. As you look at the Midwest, whew, this is carnage.
We got
Uh,
cleaned out.
yes, there are a lot of teams that are gone, a lot of charter teams that are gone. You think about NFPL, Futsal Indy, charter team, Columbus Futsal, charter team. Uh, you're missing FC Trizub in this list. They're defending champs. They're not interested in defending their championship this season. Joy of the People, very strong powerhouse team with young talent that has a great future in futsal and probably even outdoor. Nah, we'll pass this season. No big deal. Jenga FC, who did 2 stints with the NFPL, gone. Jenga FC actively advertising. They're calling it a debut season, but it looks like a series of friendlies to me. It looks like they're kind of just doing their own thing down in Cincinnati. It's crazy to see here that we have lost now 4 teams. Who am I missing? That's it. Trizub, Joy, Jenga, and Indy.
Yep.
And then San Diego was
Yep.
the 5th one. So we've lost a total of 5 teams in a season. What is happening at the NFPL?
I mean, I'll just say it. I'll be the bad guy. To me, it's fees. It's like what you talked about. This is an amateur league. You can't ask for absorbent fees. You just can't, and you're going to lose people. One team we didn't list. I think. Did you say Columbus?
I did.
Columbus is gone.
If I didn't, Columbus.
I mean, maybe some of these people, maybe a little bit of mismanagement. Whatever. We all, if you haven't gone like weird on your credit card, then you haven't lived life. So, but the thing is again, it's an amateur league. These teams should be packed in here if they want to play. This is my opinion, and it should be super simple to join the league. It should be, you should have to pay to play, but the same thing is like, what's a tournament for a soccer team? Like if you want to go play in a tournament, this is just basically a big tournament. So what, $800? You can fundraise that. I don't know, 1,000 if you want to get crazy. It's just got to be easy to get in. It's got to be easy to play. Like we said, a lot of these people aren't wanting to manage some sort of business. Make it easy on them to join. They have a lot to do. They're trying to, if they really want to grow, they have to manage social media. They have to manage players with full-time jobs, full-time jobs coming in on their off time, traveling from Grand Rapids to who knows where, like Columbus. You know what I mean? Like that's a commitment. And I think they know what they're signing up for, but at the same time, like give them a break. I think that's where they lost people. I think that's the financial burden. It just was difficult to manage. I think these teams, if you're the champion and you don't want to come back, I kind of see where Trizub came from, because I did speak with them, and I'm okay with dishing dirt because I just don't care. They said it was too easy. They didn't feel like the competition was there, and I get that. At the same time, they demolished. They did. The only people that gave them competition was Grand Rapids. I think Futsal Factory put up a little bit of a fight, but they ran rough shot over everybody.
Yeah,
and so that's hard. Like, what do you do with a team that's great? You're like, sorry. You know what I mean? So
what an interesting statement too. Like for the cost of being in the league, we didn't get the competition we hoped for.
That's what it sounded like to me. I mean, their manager's English is not perfect. He's definitely English is a second language for him. But that's kind of what the sentiment I got was. It just wasn't enough, and you didn't come out and say that. Just so you know, I'm paraphrasing and reading into the conversation I had. But I don't know. But to lose that many teams, I think we need to I think you should really kind of reconsider what's going on. To lose that many teams, to lose charter teams, I don't know. I don't want to tell anybody their business. Obviously, there's other things going on, but it's just such a sad day for an FPL. I'm heartbroken. I'm glad to see Detroit. I'm glad to see Santa Fe Gloom. I'm glad to see NFPL. But at the same time, losing some of these teams, I was a little bit bummed out about.
Well, and on the surface, for again, I'm pandering to my uh, UK audience a little bit here, and the folks aren't familiar with United States geography, but a little bit. But you look at this, and on the surface, like, well, there's 8 teams, we're all right. Well, no, not really, because the cost and logistics of Cadence, Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Grand Rapids to travel to Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Aurora, and Arizona. I believe Phoenix. Or no, it's not Phoenix. Where is Brusa?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, Phoenix.
is it Phoenix? Okay.
Well, I mean, I think it's close.
That's a plane ride.
Yes.
That's not a drive down the highway or the freeway. That is a plane ride.
Yes.
And it's an expensive plane ride. The United States geography is what makes us being successful at this level difficult, in my mind, in a lot of ways. So really, you've got 2 divisions of 4. And when you look at the schedule, it shows. I think that everybody plays each other 3 times. So you have 4 to 5 home games a team, which is a little less than before. So it's a tough one. It's really a tough one, because the other thing too, Luke, what happens to the women's division here? Because you've lost half your women's division by losing Indy and Columbus.
I was just going to say something about that because I didn't scroll down there on purpose.
Uh-oh.
The women's wait,
Gone.
all divisions. It's gone. Oh, that's updated. I saw them on there a while ago. It was rough with the women's division, which is to be expected with a first-year product. It really was only 2 teams. It was Grand Rapids and Futsal Factory. It breaks my heart. It really, really does, because I went back. I literally just went back and watched the Grand Rapids at Futsal Factory women's game because it was so good. It was
home
so
opener?
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, banger.
It was such a great game. We saw
more entertaining than the men's match, by the way.
Yes.
I thought.
Well, I think we
No
had
offense
technical
to my
problems.
Olay friends.
I think we had technical problems on that stream, but it's whatever. Anyway, we got to see. We got to see her name. I just lost her name. She signed the professional contract.
Oh my goodness.
I just lost her name. Chloe something, right?
Yeah, Chloe Kelling.
No, she's on. She was
in
Grand
LA.
Rapids. Her name was something. I forgot her name. But anyways, she's actually playing professional ball now. And we got to see her playing futsal. It was such a treat. She's good. She's fast. She's
Very
aggressive. We got to see players like all the Michigan Futsal Factory players. Like what's
Chloe
her
Ricketts.
name?
Sorry.
Chloe Ricketts. Chloe
that was
Ricketts.
Going to bother me. I had to look it up.
Yeah,
you
you're good.
Heard me tippy tapping on my keyboard for that, but I had to do it.
I mean, some of these players, they're just like Chloe Kelling. She's great. She plays like the pivot, like a beast. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's just some of these players just so fun to watch. I can't name all of them. I'm going to miss some of them, but it's just some of the players are so entertaining to watch.
The Grimaldo sisters, right?
Grimaldo sisters playing for the Mexican national team.
Yeah, playing for a youth Mexico national team on outdoor. You have Citali Luna from Grand Rapids, now playing at Chivas in their women's division in Mexico. I mean, holy moly, those are not light accolades.
There's some talent in those teams.
Yes, sir.
So it was just so fun to watch. I want to shout out a couple more names. Michaela Johnson.
Oh, man. Yeah. She made it look effortless, didn't she?
Didn't Brooklyn Harding get a call up to the U.S. national team?
I think she did go to a one of
the camps
trainings, if I remember right, one of the camps. Yeah,
so I mean, these are just like all-star futsal women players. They're stacked. I think none of the Grand Rapids kids got calls up, which I thought was I wanted to talk about tonight. But just it was stacked teams both ways. and it was so fun to watch. And it is a tragedy that they lost this women's division, but who knows? They could come back. I'm a big supporter of women's sports, having 3 daughters of my own. But yeah, it's just kind of it was a 2-horse race, but it is a big loss in my opinion.
I hope we still see some friendlies maybe out of the two teams remaining, especially since they were definitely the two premier teams
Right.
in that first season in Ann Arbor and in Grand Rapids. I think two teams that see each other often anyway. There's a little bit of a natural rivalry there. I always enjoy watching those clubs play when they're in Akron for the regional tournament and the youth tournaments. A lot of really good talent that comes out of Michigan. It pains me as an Ohioan to say anything good is happening in Michigan, but I give them credit. Goes against every sports vibe in my body, but I am still willing to do it right here live for you guys. And Ann Arbor's got some really, really great talent up there, the boys and girls teams.
Right.
There's the future is bright in Ann Arbor. Future is very bright in Grand Rapids. Fabian is a genius at running an academy and having depth from top to bottom.
Yep.
There's no such thing as a bad Olay team. So that's the other thing that we've got to consider here is a lot of these NFPL teams are built on youth academies. It's an end game. It's a way to keep alumni of these youth academies involved in the club after the fact. So it adds to that factor of when it's difficult to participate, whether it be financially, logistically, otherwise, it's going to be hard to pull that talent. So, yeah, like you said, Luke, it's a bit of a gut punch to see so few teams involved this year compared to last year.
Right.
It's great to see some familiar faces. There's been some things that, and I've told you guys on the stream before, and Luke and I talk about this all the time because we talk often off stream, that I'm a big NFPL fan. It's all I know. Okay. It's, I think of it like my car. I drive a Ford. And I don't particularly like Ford more than anything else, but it's what I know. I know what good to expect from Ford. I know what bad to expect from Ford, and
Right.
I learned to live with it. So, like, it's kind of the same thing with NFPL. I know what they're good at. I know what they're bad at. I've learned to live with it and enjoy it. Truly enjoy it. And there were some things that were mismanaged last season that I was critical of. I am looking ahead of that now, though, and trying to think of next steps and what's next for the league. And it might be time to reconsider how we do things if we're losing teams 3, 4, 5 at a time. I know that each scenario for each of these teams is a little different. Not all of them are going to be the Trezub example of we felt we didn't have enough competition for what it cost, or if that even was the concept, or just strictly that it wasn't the concept. But I have heard from several team owners over the years that have come and gone. Not even just from this past season, but in seasons past, that money's an issue. And then when you consider the fact that the United States is so fast and there's a travel expense with every away game for these amateur players, and in a lot of cases, and this is alluded to in Eric Hegarty's videos a couple of times with what, a day in the life of a futsal player, these guys are driving on their own.
Yeah.
They don't get to hop on a team bus.
No.
No one's covering their expense to drive. So these players have to be passionate enough to hop in a car, drive from Grand Rapids to Columbus for a semifinal match in the middle of the night. And then these guys have obligations to other teams. So perfect example, last year I went down to the semifinal match. I drove down to Columbus to watch Grand Rapids versus Columbus. And afterwards, the guys inhaled some food and raced off to their next obligation to another semi-pro or amateur sports team in soccer and played an outdoor game the next morning. So they literally drove to another place, hopped in a hotel, slept maybe 5 hours, and then were up the next day and had to get ready for another game. And it's a lot to ask. And I think we have to be real with ourselves sometimes and understand that that's what we're dealing with. We're not semi-pro yet. We're not there.
No.
And a lot of it, unfortunately, comes down to that necessary evil, which is money. Our passion's only going to get us so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope we find a way to keep some people involved. I hope we find a way to make the league more accessible to other teams, even if it's not legacy teams, because NFPL is a good platform, especially now that streaming has become more of a factor. NFPL has dabbled with streaming for years, even before Luke came in and started running this thing and helping with this thing. And there's been some tournaments that have been streamed. There's been games here and there from teams where they've played with it and tried to figure out how to make it work. And I appreciate the NFPL for that, and the fact that they have teams and people in the organization they're willing to get out of their comfort zone and figure this out. But I think we have to make just a couple more steps forward and out of that comfort zone to make this really truly work.
Yeah.
And I hope we figure that out. I don't know how you guys feel in the comments about that. I'd love to hear from you guys on what you think the US US futsal. Excuse me. Wow, that's like a commandment broken on this channel to say that word. But for US futsal, I'd be curious what you guys in the chat think. What do you guys think is missing, or what the next step needs to be to get us over this hump and really get some growth and plant some roots? I think our problem is we're not planting any roots right now. We got to figure out how to do that.
Right.
Growth in futsal seems a little stalled out at the adult level to me in the United States, especially this year. It's just been a funky year. You know, we had a head coach change that felt like a forced change, and we've heard tons of rumors that it was, and that it wasn't a fair change to that coaching staff. We've heard from different organizations behind closed doors about how they feel about the costs and the financial impact of participating in futsal at an adult level. Well, I'd be curious what people think needs to change to get us over that and get us to the next level and make things a little more permanent. Some of the things we planned to talk to Juan about was some of the struggles, for him. He is running the team alongside owner Fabian up at Grand Rapids Olay. He takes on a lot of the responsibility of the day-to-day and takes it off of Fabian's plate. From what I've seen, I'd love to hear more from some other people in the NFPL and FCS and even Superliga. What gets you here, but what keeps you here? I think that's important to understand.
Yep. I think as far as what needs to change, it's tough because it's a multifaceted question. It has a lot of moving pieces. It has
Not an easy answer.
No, it has a lot of personalities. I like you said, the hat tip to NFPL for the streaming and the work they're doing to push streaming, because I don't think it's a secret that NFPL pushes hard on streaming. And I as someone who works with teams, I know it's tough, and I know that teams have their struggles. I know we have internet issues. I know we have camera issues. I know we have staff issues, people who run the camera, announcers. It's all volunteer work, but the work, when it does come together and the stars do align, say like a Grand Rapids game with Rudy on the mic, we got 3 cameras going. It's hard because you see what it could be, and what it could be is fantastic. And it's fun to watch. It's easy to watch. It has replays. It has names. It has graphics, and you can really get the taste of that concoction of what I think what you and I, Jake, see as what it could be. And yes. I think we just, I don't know. Maybe it's a tall order, but maybe we need to see more of that. And more teams catch that vision and say, hey, listen, we might need to gut out a season of like some really rough stuff of like, hey, we're going to have to suck it up and deal with, having someone not play tonight to run the camera, or someone not play tonight to be an announcer. I don't know. I mean, I honestly think, like you said, the money isn't there. So the sacrifice is going to have to be somewhere. You know what I mean? It's got some things and some wants and needs are going to have to fall by the wayside. I just think there needs to be a few passionate people on each team that want to see futsal survive and futsal go forward. Honestly, and this is going to be a rough opinion, and I think a lot of people will shirk at this opinion, but if the quality is not quite up to task, so be it. If you can, here's the thing. What you're really going for is not a hardcore futsal fan. You do want them, but what you're aiming for is this kind of gravitational pull towards the sport. And those are common everyday watchers. people who don't know what futsal is, people who just take in futsal or soccer because it's neat and entertaining. They don't quite know what offside is when they're watching soccer. They don't quite know why they're setting the ball on the ground and kicking it in. They don't quite know why the keeper can't keep the ball for more than 4 seconds. You know, those are the fans that when you start gaining those types of fans, you're starting to build a groundswell and a general interest where people will start learning and people will become more hardcore fans. So I feel like I said, it's some people are going to really shirk at this, and these are hardcore futsal people. You know, maybe drop down the quality a little bit, and, not on purpose, but like just focus more on getting teams playing. Make it a like because the thing is as a streamer, you know what it is. It's showing up. It's showing up. It's showing up, showing up, showing up, showing up, showing up. And when these games get canceled, no one cares. They're like, "Oh, I guess they don't stream all the time." Or I guess there's not a game on tonight. I'm not going to watch them anymore. But when it's every single Saturday, like clockwork at 7 o'clock, people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go watch futsal. That was on last Saturday. I missed it. I'm going to catch it this weekend." That's just my opinion. I think that's some things that need to change. It's the consistency. Whatever you need to put out there, it has to be consistent.
I agree. And, some teams are better at it than others. You mentioned Olay. That was so a little behind the scenes, guys, was something that interested me that I thought about all week as we were playing into Meet 1 is this whole thing that we're doing here right now on YouTube is because Luke and myself and Juan talked through a chat in a live stream of Olay,
Yeah.
and Olay was had Rudy on the mic at the time, but Rudy became a part of that conversation as well. And we've got this group of four of us here that became friends through a chat.
Yeah.
And it was just four passionate people that found a way together here to make something special. And Juan's efforts and Rudy's efforts and Fabian's efforts in Olay to make make the streaming experience for the viewer better actually became the catalyst, I believe, for the NFPL to take that next step and make it a league-wide push. When we talk about that year before, when we all first started getting together, Luke, I mean, the quality of streams was ultimately, as a whole, fairly poor. I mean, it was, right? I mean, I hate to say it, but it was. But then after that, it kind of invigorated you and I, especially you, enough to go to the league and email the league and say, "Hey, I can help with this stuff if you guys want help. And I love futsal. I'll do it for nothing."
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically what the message was, right? And we got them to believe us that we were
somehow,
and some way, and then it's evolved, right? So it evolved from games just being streamed in general. Hey, we're finally streaming. This is good. We're seeing teams we don't normally see online. To hey, we've moved it to a better platform. We're not on 11 Sports where the viewer experience is poor. We're on YouTube or Twitch. Hey, now we've got commentators that are willing to commentate teams outside of their market because they just love it so much. They're willing to commentate. Think about a Ruben. Think about a Rudy. I've gotten on the mic a few times and just probably really abysmally just babbled over a game, but have done it just to get something going. Dante with Columbus did a fantastic job commentating.
Absolutely fantastic
He's got
job.
a great talent for the microphone, and it's stuff like that that manifests and grows. I think it's an example of what could be. Like, hey, we've got this tiny little success story within the NFPL, and it's about streaming, and it came with some. I mean, you said it best. It came with some hurdles. Okay, we weren't perfect. There's and I'm dealing with it now with the Northern Ireland League with Sparta Belfast. I'm trying to help them stream and make their product a little cleaner. They're streaming for the first time ever their games live. They're sending their feed from Northern Ireland to some doofus in the middle of Midwest United States at 6 a.m. his time, and he's just I got my coffee and I'm trying to plug it in. But we're finding a way to make it work. And these leagues across the globe are finally starting to realize the power of streaming and the power of the internet. And look, you're not using Facebook to pander to your local audience anymore. You have a global audience. I think that's a big part of the miss is these guys are still using social media like they're talking to the people in their own backyard. You have a global audience.
Mm-hmm.
You have the potential for a global audience. And I think, I can only speak to my experiences. I know you guys are probably sick of me bringing up the Vulcans because they don't exist anymore. But the Vulcans kind of had this catalyst that made them successful in streaming. And it was the fact that we had some Argentinian players on our team that came up from San Lorenzo.
Right.
And that fan base followed those young players to us.
Mm-hmm.
So our streaming numbers were through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and we were really one of the only teams streaming at the time in the NFPL, outside of Futsal India, I believe, in Columbus Futsal. And, all of a sudden we've got this proof in the pudding that, hey, we can pull an international audience. It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to figure out a way to finagle this thing to make it attractive to these countries that actually appreciate futsal.
Yeah.
And then in turn, in my mind, and listen, guys, I'm a salesman for a living, so maybe I'm just getting excited and passionate here and trying to sell you futsal and what we can do with it. But on the other hand, I've seen enough of business to be dangerous and have dangerous thoughts, is that, then we turn around and take those analytics and take them to a sponsor or an investor. And maybe suddenly there's some money in this sport? Question mark?
Right.
I mean, it's worth thinking about, I think.
Well, I mean, to your point of international audiences, Columbus was pulling Brazilian audience. I think Colombian. I think a little bit of Venezuela because they had some roots, players that were born there or have family there. Where I know, I just lost his name. The big Pivo played for Columbus.
Was it Marcelo?
No. Why did I just lose his name? Anyway, he had that nutmeg highlight goal, and then he scored.
Oh my goodness! Yes. Oh shoot! How is my memory that bad?
I know, right? I'm just sitting here struggling with it. So anyway,
I'm a big fan of his work. I can tell you that.
He had family. I believe in Colombia. I think. Yul Illich.
Yul Illich. Yes, thank you. Oh
Yul
my gosh,
Illich,
I would have been awake all
story.
night thinking about that.
Fantastic story. Sad to not see him play anymore. Maybe we will. Who knows? But anyway, they're pulling audiences because the family's back at some other country. And I think the Argentinian story at Vulcans is a great story. I think so. If we want to go down this road, once we start pulling a little bit of salaries and we do legitimately become semi-pro, you got to see that those Argentinian kids were chomping at the bit to go to the States.
Yeah.
There's nothing they would have liked more than to go to the States. Because I think what we don't understand is most kids in other countries are learning English because the market is dominated by the English language. For anyone to get a foot in their door in the United States is a big win for most countries that aren't the United States. I don't think we really realize that. And some of the talent pool, like Colombians, maybe, like Diego Valeri is a great story who came to the States. Diego could have played a lot of places. Diego could have played in Argentina at the top level. But him and his family got stuck up at gunpoint. And he says, I'm done. I'm out. My family is the number one concern.
Isn't that crazy?
Went to the States, said, I don't care if I'm playing for the Portland Timbers. I probably didn't even know who they were. But the guy destroyed at Portland. And he did it with a great smile. And, there's probably plenty of people like that. Like, I would like an opportunity outside of Brazil. I would like because they're sitting the bench. They're a great player. And they're like, who cares? Because they're just loaded with players. They're loaded with talent. And we would be probably blown away at how good they are. I always think that there's talent pools, really deep talent pools, and you could even pull off the bottom of the talent pool, and they're still better than some of our top flight players here in futsal. So I just think that's a shout,
So you look at the Vulcans as a potential case study, right? And you see you got 3 19 and 20-year-olds, and the sales pitch was, hey, it's summertime in Argentina right now. Yeah. But why don't you come to Ohio in the winter and play futsal with us? What could go wrong? and these 3 guys, they did it, and there was some expense behind bringing them up here for sure. So that we come back to the money situation, but we found a way to work with San Lorenzo. We found a way to bring these young talents up to get them more court time
Right.
that they weren't getting with the main team.
Yep.
They still brought a following with them, which
Yep.
is insane. That they so think about that. I mean, they weren't the end of the bench, but they were the they were the youth guys that had potential to come back and be part of that starting lineup.
Right.
So they still drew a bunch of eyeballs over here to the United
Right.
States. And hey, what's this thing all about? And they were very, very, very good. I mean, they were all three of them were in our starting lineup. All three of them were top of the statistics boards, and they were entertaining to watch, and they played real futsal, and it was really, really fun.
Right.
And I mean, those guys came. I'll say it again. They came to Ohio in the wintertime. Northeast Ohio in the wintertime. The mistake on the lake. They were here.
The mistake
Okay?
on the lake.
Like they were here in it. They were, and they loved it. Then COVID happens. They can't leave their rooms. It's single digits outside, so I guess I kind of don't blame them anyway, even if there wasn't COVID. But they didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
Like when it was time to go home, they're like, oh, surely we could stay and find a way. No, you got to go home. Like this is the flight. We got to the flight happened really quick. The way the visas and the flights worked, and at the time Argentina was only taking so many people back
Right.
on planes at a time. So when your window opened, you had to took it, and they didn't want to go.
Right.
And it's like, man, hey, there's some passion here.
Yeah.
And it's going both directions. Like everyone is succeeding from this. And to say that there isn't that opportunity in places like, I think of for me right off the rip. Here's my big countries for futsal fans: Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Surely we can't find some young Brazilians that want to come up here and play a little futsal, right? I mean, come on, they're everywhere. They're literally everywhere playing futsal. They're playing in national teams all over the globe.
Right.
Tell me you can't find some Brazilians that'll play in the NFPL or FCS and bring some eyeballs on a stream.
Right.
Portugal, Spain, Argentina, Morocco. Hello? Morocco's amazing right now in indoor and outdoor games. And their fans are super passionate.
Right.
Go into any comment section from the World Cup in Lithuania and try and tell me that Morocco fans aren't passionate. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Vietnam. Now, there's some visa questions there, right? I mean, obviously from political things, but Vietnam's fans, insanely passionate. Indonesia, Thailand, insanely passionate. The game in the East is better than ever.
Right.
And surely we can find a way to get some synergy here across some other countries that'll let us borrow some players.
Mm-hmm.
And where it particularly works is with the Brazilian and the South American and the Argentinian leagues where,
Time
we're your off season as well.
Yeah.
Not only time zone, it's already evening time when these people are watching stuff because they're on similar time zones to us, but also we're on flip sides of seasons. So when it's your summer, come play winter futsal in the United States and get some more touches. And maybe you get those extra touches that get you that look to a senior squad.
Right.
I'd take a bunch of young Argentinian and Brazilian guys in the NFPL. It'd completely change a game.
Yep. It would also bring a different attitude. I think it would bring a different, fresh set of eyes. People that are looking to play futsal as opposed to soccer players that are kind of maybe playing on a futsal team. Specific futsal players. I think it would bring it, and it definitely. I mean, once you go down there and see the culture of Argentina and Brazil, it's different.
Yeah,
they're built different, and coming because the thing is when you grow up in the States, it's football, it's baseball, it's basketball, it's soccer, and then there's futsal. And when you go to Brazil, it's football and futsal, and that's it. Like the end. That's the end of the story. That's what you do. Everyone loves it. Everyone's on board. So these players are just different. They're taking their top talent. Like football and baseball and basketball is taking America's top talent. Mm-hmm. They're athletes. They're whatever they want to play. They're probably great at whatever they would practice at. But those countries, their top talent is going to soccer and futsal. To football and futsal. That's where it all goes because that's the sport. So I just think things are different. Things are different there.
Well, Luke, is it too much to suggest that if we did something like that, there'd be enough competition in a thing like in a league like the NFPL or like FCS that maybe some of our MASL friends start playing a little more futsal to get some looks at the national team?
Say that one more time.
Do you think if we were able to get some better talent, and not better talent, more talent? Let me say that, more talent, because there's some talented people in the NFPL. There's some very talented people in FCS as well. Mm-hmm. If we could bring more overseas talent here and just increase the overall, the quality over quantity conversation, do you think we start to pull some more national team members into true futsal teams, or do you think we still compete with MASL because of that money conversation?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'd like to think that a head coach looking to go to a tournament to win is going to take the best players. That's what I want to
Right.
think. Whether or not that's true, and there's political things involved. I mean, you got to know there's probably some politics being played. But at the end of the day, if a coach has a chance to secure his job, make some noise, and do probably the best a team has ever done in a World Cup, I just don't see a coach not snatching that opportunity.
Right. Well, and that's something that we probably won't touch on tonight, but another conversation that you guys will see in a video later this month is kind of that conversation of this push and pull, this yin and yang conversation between the Arena Soccer League here in the United States and futsal, and how it's impacting the dynamic of our national futsal teams. So that'll be a conversation for another day. But with that, we're going to wrap things up. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation tonight. We talked a lot about domestic futsal. If you're a United States fan, uh, there's certainly a lot of budding opportunity, I believe, in the in the United States, including the NFPL, even with the setbacks heading into this season with losing several teams. Now it's just a matter of figuring out how do we harness this energy. I'm certainly here for it, and here to help anyone that's willing to talk about what could be. If you need someone to dream big, I'm your guy. I think Luke kind of feels the same way. But if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you continue to comment and let us know about it. Let us know what you want to hear back from us as well. In these live streams, this is where we typically do more opinion pieces compared to the videos. I'm still trying to keep those videos as neutral as possible. Easier said than done sometimes. Sometimes I just sit here and stare at my computer, Luke, and I go, how am I going to do this? But I also appreciate you guys' patience with me. I know that my content on this channel has been sporadic. Some big life changes here in the last couple of months, but we are finding a way to rebalance work life and YouTube. And you should be seeing a lot more content from me here to close out the year. And then next year, hopefully bigger than ever. I also still trying to confirm as well, we may be doing the pregame show again with Grand Rapids Olay this year. We need to figure out those details first. So once I have some more offline conversations with Juan, I will make that announcement to you guys like I did last year if that becomes a thing. I'd love to do it again. I just want to make sure I understand what we're getting into. So we'll look at that too. So if you guys want to find your NFPL team to follow, of course, I am biased to Grand Rapids Olay. So I'm going to push them pretty hard and tell you need to go check them out. Let me see it. Yes. There it is. I saved mine for a later video. I went with the old reliable here. But I hope you guys are enjoying the content. Let us know what you think. Join us in Discord. Discord's where we have our offline conversations and we talk more about futsal. We share links to games we're finding online. I am biased to Argentina, so there's a lot of Argentina stuff on there because of some friendships I have. But even so, if I find something like, for example, Ricardinho playing in Latvia for Riga, I try to share those posts. They're pretty active on live streams. Currently helping Belfast Sparta with their live streams, so you'll see them early in the morning from me if you're a United States guy or gal. But come check us out. We're trying to grow this thing and create a community here, and we want to do something big. And that'd be my teaser for next time is if you guys want to see something big happen with futsal or see something change in the United States, let's have that conversation. Let's brainstorm it and figure out how to do it. Yeah. I'd be more than happy to dedicate a stream to that and say, hey, let's get together as a community on this live stream and talk in the chat and build something right here live on stream and make it happen. I think that'd be a really cool concept and something that's kind of modern and could bring some relevancy to futsal in a viral way. So if that's something that you as a viewer are willing to participate in, consider it. And let me know what you think. Send me a message. You guys can find me on Twitter, on Discord. My email is in the description as well. Let's figure out a way to accelerate the growth here. Luke, thank you as always for joining me and for this banter and us kind of talking about nothing, but talking about futsal. And until I see you guys next time, don't forget to play with your soul.